right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Thursday night football live stream with my good friend Dan from Sport Trade. We got, well, an average friend who I've never actually met in person.
Isn't that how the internet works these days, though?
That's true. He's my best friend.
What's the percentage of gambling Twitter you've ever actually laid eyes upon in real life?
Well, not including OddsJam people from like a OddsJam event, 0%.
There you go.
0%.
Mine's actually higher because I go to conventions for my job. So mine's actually a little higher.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, Dan, welcome. We appreciate you hopping on. We got Thursday night football. We got our Eagles versus the loser Minnesota Vikings, that loser city, loser franchise, everything loser about them.
Quick
Dan,
power rankings between the Niners and the Vikings. Who's a bigger loser?
Well, because of I was really high on the Steelers beating the 49ers last week, I have to shut up a little bit about the 49ers slander. So I'm going to say Vikings bigger losers than 49ers.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. So, yeah, what we're going to be doing today, mostly discussing Thursday night football, giving out our picks, props, all that good stuff. Dan has got to go to a concert tonight, so we don't have a ton of time for some nonsense. So post Thursday night football, if we have time, we will do week 2 lines that we're in on and then bake into that some week 1 overreactions if we have any. But first, Thursday night football, Eagles, Vikings. Before we get into the analysis, I have to set the scene a little bit, and that it's very funny and how similar it is to last year. Literally, like week 1, the Eagles win on the road. Not a super inspiring victory, but they did win nonetheless. Now their home opener in primetime against Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. Dan, what are your thoughts on this game?
It is interesting. It is very similar.
It's funny how that works.
It is funny how that works out. And it's funny that we're 360 some days later and we all think the same thing about Kirk Cousins. Yeah. Like we all like him a little more personally because he was on quarterback, which I thought was actually like a very underwhelming series. But,
yeah,
you know, everyone has now put a face to Kirk Cousins that isn't just up on the presser. And now apparently we all like him, but we also think he sucks on Thursday Night Football. So that to me is kind of interesting. In terms of how I feel about the football game, completely shaded by the injury report the last couple of days, right?
Yep.
The Eagles have a ton of injuries, specifically right up the middle of that defense that they just spent all offseason replacing, sort of.
Yep.
So a little worried there as an Eagles fan, but as someone looking at the line movement in this game, you know, if you really like the Vikings coming into this game, this line opened at 7.5 for the Birds, so plus 7.5 for the Vikings. You kind of missed the boat. I mean, right now it's at plus 6 in most places, but earlier today it was 5.5, and that includes Sport Trade. And I'm just going to double check real quick to make sure we still have it at 5.5, plus 104 at 5.5. But I mean, at this point, I wouldn't bet it. I just think you missed the boat. I was talking to somebody about this game earlier today who I really like and really respect, who's in sports betting. And, you know, he said something interesting to me that I thought was funny. He said, you know, if you miss the wedding, don't go to the funeral. So, you know, maybe not the perfect analogy, but I do think it works here. I think the value is completely gone. There's no way this is going to get back up to 7 or 7.5. And once you kind of cross over that number, I think you just kind of missed the boat. So personally, you know, you're not riding the Vikings, right? But if you're an Eagles backer here, you did just cross a really important number because this went from 7.5 now to 5.5. Yeah. You can find 5.5 at some pretty decent pricing right now. I know I work for Sport Trade. I'm looking specifically for our pricing. I said, yeah, minus 5.5 at minus 117. And we're actually I'm looking at unabated here. We were actually the low man. It's a leverage game, as you know, football. We're the low man at minus 5.5.
Low man wins.
Low man wins. And right now we're winning. So if you're in Jersey and Colorado, at minus 117. So if you like the Eagles, you may think there's some value there now that they've crossed under 6. But Nakobe Dean, now on IR, he's going to miss the next 4 weeks. James Bradbury, concussion protocol. Reed Blankenship out with a rib injury. Kenny Gainwell being out doesn't do a ton for me. I mean, like, they have good running backs. I'm not that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
But the Vikings were out 2 offensive linemen too. Their center Bradbury is out, and their right tackle Darashal could miss this game too.
Okay, so I was gonna say it's questionable. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Unofficial. But you know, the strongest unit for the Eagles is the defensive line.
That is true.
You hear all these things and you're thinking, okay, maybe I'm thinking on the over or the under rather, but I actually think this game has a chance to go over. I'm curious for your thoughts about the spread.
Yeah, the spread, I'm not touching. If I had to take a number, I think I would honestly ride with the Vikings plus 6.5. I feel like a lot of people are just assuming that what happened last year is going to happen again this year because of, like, we kind of laid out how similar the situations are. To me, I mean, it's not as simple as just being like, well, this happened last year. Hey, like, regardless of any other circumstances, you really can't say, well, this happened last year, so it's going to happen again this year. That's not how sports work. And also last year, and we've talked about this a lot, but the Eagles have 2 new coordinators, which was not the case last year. We don't know if Brian Johnson's a good offensive coordinator. We know that Shane Steichen was. We know that Jonathan Gannon's a loser, but we knew that he could at least beat up on bad quarterbacks or even average quarterbacks like a Kirk Cousins. We don't know what Sean Desai is. We don't know what Brian Johnson is. And just looking at it, the injuries that you laid out, I think, are huge. They were already weak at linebacker and safety, and now they're missing their top linebacker and their top safety. Like, that's massive. And they already got shredded in the middle of the field with those two playing last week.
Yeah.
I actually like Josh Jobe, who's going to start for Bradbury quite a bit. I'm assuming nobody outside of Philly knows who he is, but I actually like him quite a bit. He's no James Bradbury, but I think he'll actually be okay. I'm more worried about the middle of the field, and you can't expect Darius Slay to have the best game of his career again against Justin Jefferson. Like, I just don't think that that's likely. On the other side, I think the Eagles offense should have a ton of success. That Vikings defense is bad. They blitz a ton, which the Eagles aren't great against the blitz, but if they can pick it up, their cornerbacks are weak. Their defensive line is weak. Their linebackers are weak. They really only have Danielle Hunter, who's good. They have former Eagle Jordan Hicks at linebacker, who's good, but he's older. And then Harrison Smith, who's good, but I feel like the Eagles have just dogged him his entire career. So
he's just still seeing images of Nick Foles throwing over top of his head.
Yes, correct. So that's a long-winded way of answering your question. My favorite play of the night, I think, is the over. I think both teams are going to be able to score. I think that as Eagles fans, if they don't have a lot of success on offense, I think you're starting to get a little bit nervous. Like week 1 against Bill Belichick, rainy game, you can kind of understand why they struggled. If they struggle in this game, then I think there's some concern there. But I just think that a ton of points are going to be scored in this game. So, like I said, the over is my favorite play of between of the main lines, I should say. Like, I'm not touching money line. I'm not touching the spread, kind of as you outlined. So to me, I love, and the over really hasn't gotten nuked a ton. It's kind of stayed around like 48.5, 49 over the course of the week. So I think that's pretty settled there, but I think points are going to be scored in this.
So over 48.5 is where it opened. That's where it's at now. Yeah. Total, I should say, total 48.5. So nature healing itself after a slight deviation. Yeah, I mean, some places we had this last check at 49.5 at even money earlier today. It's now at -117. So we happen to think the total should be a little higher. If you can get this at 48, I would say do it. I like the over for a lot of the reasons that you laid out. I think this is a huge TJ Hawkinson game.
We haven't gotten to the props section yet. I totally agree. Eric Catherine, loyal listener slash watchers on the under. Sorry, I got to go opposite of you.
Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, Rick's. We're going to talk about some taters. So we might talk about AJ Brown a little bit. Eagles to cover is what he likes. But anyways, you're talking about TJ Hawkinson. Keep going. Yeah,
I mean, Hawkinson, I think, is going to have a big game because there's not going to be anybody who's going to be capable of covering him. Zach Cunningham is a thin guy, linebacker. And now you're weak in the secondary from a depth perspective. So there's really not a lot of people. I assume that maybe Avonte Maddox gets that assignment. But then you also have KJ Osborne. You also have Jordan Addison. Like, there's a lot of weaponry here. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's the best way to go about it. I think initially the game plan would have been to put Reed Blankenship in that role, but he's out. So now you have Sidney Brown, presumably, who's going to start. He's never played. He's a rookie, a 3rd or 4th round rookie, who brings a lot of things, intangibles to the plate. But we just haven't
heat-seeking missile.
Just haven't seen it though. You know, and that could be great. Right. That could be a great tone-setting thing for a safety. That could also leave you holding the bag. If you're too 100%. Aggressive. One of the reasons I really like this over too is we don't know a lot about Sean Desai, right? As you mentioned, there was a very concerning drive, the second to last drive of the Patriots on Sunday, where they just waltzed down the field
in less than 2 minutes.
Eagles zoned up. I mean, I was having flashbacks to Jonathan Gannon. I thought I was in a time machine. They zoned up, and Mac Jones, who I don't think is very good, and Kendrick Bourne, who I also think is okay, just walked down the field against this defense. And that was with the ones in. Now you're removing 2/4 of that secondary. You're removing your drop coverage linebacker, Koob Dean. You better hope the Eagles get to the quarterback if you're an Eagles backer tonight, because they didn't do it last week, and they snuck out with a win. So they got to do it tonight. But I think as it relates to the total, I mean, the implied score here is 27.25 to 22.25 for the Eagles, right? I think both of those teams can get to that number and more. That's why I like the over.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. The new defensive coordinator, 2 new linebackers, 2 new safeties. You could understand why in week 1 they're going to have some like coverage busts.
Well, and let's not forget Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator now for Minnesota. I mean, that could throw a wrench into what Philly wants to do, because Philly didn't look great offensively.
Heavy blitzer. I mean, just like, and it's like a total different approach from last year's Vikings team, which, I mean, like the Vikings game last year was Jalen Hurts' coming out party as a passer. He diced up that secondary, like over 300 yards. He was like 26 of 31. I looked up the stats, like just crushed them. This Vikings defense, while the talent level is probably worse, they play entirely different. So the way if the Eagles are going to have success, it's not going to be the same way they did last year. I still think their offense is going to be fine. I agree with you completely on the defense. If their defensive line doesn't get to Kirk Cousins in under 3 seconds, then it's going to be a long game. And that's really what it comes down to. And even though last week the sacks didn't really come until the end, like I thought their defensive line affected the game pretty well. Mac Jones just got the ball out super quickly, and the Eagles,
which is not something Minnesota does. I mean, Minnesota is not a 3-step program.
No, they're not.
I mean, they're taking 5- and 7-step drops. So
and
I agree with you. Yeah, and it was against backup guards, but it's been talked about all week. But Jalen Carter was an absolute force. You saw it in the moment. So we're sort of contradicting ourselves, talking about things that could affect an under here. I do think this game goes over, but the Eagles defensive line has an Eagles defensive line game. This game goes under, the Eagles cover.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, it really is as simple as that. You could drill down football to, does the line win? Yes. Okay, then that team wins. So all right, so main lines. I think we're both sitting out the spread, and we're both on the over. Right? Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, if you were in tune enough to grab the Vikings either plus 7.5. I mean, look, if you like the Eagles tonight in a big way,
take them. Take
them. Take minus 5.5. Yeah. You've crossed over 7. There may be some value for you there. A lot of the ranking systems would disagree with you. I've seen a lot of them today. Specifically the Massey Peabody ranking that Rufus Peabody does has the Vikings about 3 points different from the Eagles.
Okay.
So even if you take that into account, you may see some value on the Vikings plus 5.5 in that regard. I still think it's too far gone. You missed the boat if you didn't get 7.5. But yeah, agreed. Sitting out the spread.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to props. You mentioned you like TJ Hawkinson. I like him as well. I first just want to talk about the anytime touchdowns, because I did do my Tater Time video.
Tater Time.
Tater Time. On the Eagles, I think a lot of love for Dallas Goedert, which I am not disagreeing with. But to me, I'm taking AJ Brown. I feel like I forgot to look this up specifically, but last year there weren't a lot of games where AJ Brown didn't score where he went 2 straight games without scoring a touchdown. Like he only scored 1 in the first 5 weeks. And then from there, he scored like 12, I think, for the rest of the season. So last week, Devontae Smith gets a touchdown. AJ Brown had a good game, like 7 for 79. But I think that nobody's more aware that he needs to keep his receivers happy than Nick Sirianni. I feel like he really kind of just lives into that, for lack of a better word. So I like AJ Brown on the Eagles side. People that like Penny, that like Swift, that like Goddard, I'm not going to talk you out of. I think there are a lot of good options. And then on the Viking side, I went chalk. Give me Justin Jefferson. Like he did nothing against the Eagles last year. There's no way that's going to repeat itself. It's just incredibly unlikely. He didn't get in the end zone last week, even though he had like 9 for 150. Both of these are plus money. We just need one to hit to make money, but obviously we're banking on a 2-0 day. So those are my 2 taters. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think anything that's not plus money in these markets is a complete ripoff. TJ Hawkins can eat tonight. Plus 255 is the best number there. We don't have props at Sport Trade. Yeah, to score. Plus 255.
That's juicy.
Yeah, well, there you go. You're welcome. And here's something I found that a very, very positive EV. Again, not at Sport Trade. We don't have these props, but a rival of ours has Justin Jefferson at plus 140. Most of the market has him. Yeah, most of the market has him at, as I pull it up here, plus 110 to plus 125. So If you have a proxy in New Jersey, I can let you know where to find that after the show. But yeah, plus 140 is an unbelievable number for Justin Jefferson. I agree. I don't foresee them having as good as a night covering Justin Jefferson, the Eagles I'm talking about, as they did last year. I imagine he's going to go off a little bit here. I can look up Isles. I can look up Goddard here real quick. I've got it pulled up.
I have it up. Goddard best offered at plus 225 at DraftKings, or you can get 220 at FanDuel. I love it. I'm not going to talk anybody out of Dallas Goedert. To me, I think he's more likely to hit. I mean, the odds will tell you this, so this isn't a hot take. For me, I like his receptions and I like his yards better than I like his touchdowns specifically. But I mean, there's a Twitter account that basically will track how often what a coach says actually translates on the field. If that makes sense. And they say like Nick Sirianni has the highest basically of what he says actually comes true. So he doesn't lie to the media. So him saying that he's going to get Goddard involved, that he's going to get Swift involved, I think you can rely on that pretty heavily for your actual betting analysis and stuff. Seems like you disagree.
I just think I'm not sure that has anything to do with how Nick Sirianni is honest or not. I think that has more to do with he was not happy with the way the game was called last week.
Sure, I guess most coaches are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
To me, like it was strange that DeAndre Swift had 2 touches. It was strange that Penny was a healthy scratch, that they leaned so heavily on Kenny Gainwell. And then, oftentimes they basically abandoned the run. There were stretches there in those 4 or 5 consecutive drives that were at 3 and out where they barely ran the ball. Sitting at home screaming like, you have the best offensive line. Like they didn't play all that well, to be honest. But,
yeah, they didn't.
Your quarterback is missing all over the place. Like it just doesn't make a ton of sense. So no, not surprised. I think DeAndre gets a ton of touches tonight because he obviously can contribute on all downs.
Yeah. So the props that I like, aside from the 2 taters that I gave out, we already talked about it. Dallas Goedert receptions and receiving yards. I like both of them. Hawkinson receptions and receiving yards. I like both of them. DeAndre Swift, I don't know if I like rushing or receiving, so I'm just going to not bother. I'm just going to take the combo, rushing plus receiving, which last time I checked was at 54.5. To me, that's like a hammer of the over. Yeah, 53.5 on FanDuel. To me, that's a hammer of the over situation. And then this has been nuked, so the value isn't quite as good as it was because of the Kenny Gainwell injury news. But I like Rashad Penny to score over DeAndre Swift just because I feel like Penny's going to get more of the red zone work than Swift because he's a little bit of a bigger body. I think he's a little bit better in between the tackles and in short yardage and stuff.
How do you feel about Rashad Perry, though?
Rashad Perry?
Yeah.
What's
check the comment section real quick.
Oh, okay. I was like, what am I missing here?
Rashad Perry's going to struggle tonight, I think.
Yeah. What are the odds you think on
sitting
Perry?
in section 104? I have him for the over 7 Miller Lights.
Over 7? I'll take the over on that one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of comments are accurate. No idea what to expect from the Eagles backfield. I do think Kenny Gainwell being out makes that a little bit clearer. Yeah, I think it's going to be majority Swift, and I think it's going to be Rashad Penny on short down and in the red zone. I don't know that for a fact. But people want to go for Boston Scott. Again, I think the problem with the Eagles offense is there are a lot of options and you don't necessarily know. To me, I think the most that AJ Brown, aside from last week, Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith are going to get targets. Other than that, it's kind of a crapshoot.
We have a comment from Ricks. He said he just hammered the AJ Brown anytime. What'd you get that price at? Let us know. I'm curious.
He's going to eat against his corners. I agree.
Yeah, he probably will.
I agree. Cool. All right. Are there any other props that you like that we have not talked about yet?
No, I think those 2 anytimes are good. As you know, we don't offer props on Sport Trade, so I don't have enough energy to spend towards combing the prop market like you do.
Yeah.
But I still think those are 2 really good numbers. Again, TJ Hawkinson plus 255, Justin Jefferson plus 140.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Plus 110 is what.
Ricks, is that your actual body? I need to know what your pec flying. How much are you using on the pec flies?
The pec flies. That's that.
I know Matt posted a picture yesterday of him.
I did
with 5-pound dumbbells. I was really impressed.
Thank you. I was working on my 1 rep max.
There you go.
Someone
Good.
did comment
Good.
saying that, do I wear my socks so high because I don't have calves? If there's one part of my body that I am proud of, it is my calves. I don't do a lot of calf workouts, just blessed in the calf region.
There you go.
My fiance said that the reason why she was attracted to me was just because of my calves and nothing else, which I'm
have you seen the episode of Entourage where Johnny Drama wants to get calf implants? I mean, clearly there's something to it.
Yeah. I mean,
totally. I assume you have very tanned calves. There's nothing less attractive than an untanned calf.
They're tanned and hairy. And hairy.
Good to know.
Yeah. Everybody's curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else for this game tonight, or is it time for a DGen parlay that we can crowdsource the chat for some of these props? It sounds like we both like Goddard and Hawkinson, so I say we start with those receiving yards.
Yeah, a TETD special. I like that.
So do we want to do yards or do we want to do TDs? I kind of like the yards better.
What are their yard props?
So Goddard is at 48.5. Hawkinson is at 51.5. We put those together. We're getting plus 258. So I say we get some people got some pretty good odds on AJ Brown. Plus 119 is better than I got. Anyways,
Goddard receiving yardage frightens me. I'm trying to look up his average yards per catch.
So you don't like the 48.5. What if we do receptions?
So about 12 yards per catch last season. Now that's an imperfect stat, obviously.
Yeah.
About 12 yards per catch. So you need 4 catches for Dallas Goedert.
So his over-under receptions is 4.5. So, I mean, it's kind of like if one hits, the other one probably will hit. I personally like the yards better. I'm willing to be talked out of it. If either you or some commenters have some thoughts, I'm willing to be overruled.
Why don't you, if they'll let you correlate them, why don't you go over and over with a touchdown? Big Dallas Goedert game.
Yeah, the odds are just terrible. If we do, this is Goddard and Hawkinson yards, their main line. If it's at plus 258, if you add Goddard over 4.5 receptions, it only goes up to plus 332. So they take into account the correlation.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it.
This is why parlays are bad. Sorry.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But the people love them. So,
hey, the people love them. I know.
This is for the people. Oh, we can't combine rushing and receiving in a parlay. That hurts. All right. That definitely. Should we just do? All right. That totally threw me off. I was banking on having that as part of my parlay. Now I'm scrambling. All right. So we got Hawkinson and Goddard yards. Do we like anything else, or should we just get into some touchdowns?
Go for it.
All right.
Let's go, chat.
Just a total tight end parlay. We both do yards. We both do we do yards and touchdowns for both. If we do that, it's plus 1,700. Let's do it. We're doing a total tight end parlay. We're doing Hawkinson and Dallas Goedert over their yards and them to score a touchdown. That is our official. We need a name for this live stream. So that's our official live stream parlay. When we come up with a name with it, it'll be a little more creative. But that's what we're going with. $15 to win 258.
There you go.
Feels like free money. Someone asked how I feel about Hurts yards. I never know if it's going to be a throwing or rushing day with him. So I'm not really, personally, I'm not touching it. And then let's see, messing around with SGP prices. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That is what book? Just out the book. Tell us which book. That's ridiculous.
I saw Caesars did something like this, where I think I tweeted out last week. Caesars did something like this, where if you take a correlated SGP, it was Caesars. I was right.
Minus 179. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, Caesars is the worst. So is all the books are the worst, honestly. DraftKings, they're all terrible. Anyways, all right. Anything left on Thursday Night Football, or is it time to move on?
No, let's move on quick. I have a hard out, so.
Yeah. All right. So we got 5 minutes left. We are going to talk about week 2 lines / overreactions. I know you had one, so you can get right into it.
Yeah, I've got a couple, actually. We'll start here with one that may surprise you. I think an overreaction are the Jets. The Jets went from 3-point dogs to 9.5-point dogs against the Cowboys. You may look at this and say, who cares? They have Zach Wilson, but they actually have, I think there's an overaction on both sides. The Cowboys blow out the Giants, but they scored 2 defensive touchdown, a special teams touchdown, and completely took everyone out of that game. I think the Cowboys are good. I don't think they're that good. I don't think the Giants are that bad either. And then the Jets defense is really good.
Yeah.
And they have Zach Wilson, and they're going to ball control the shit out of this game. So I think 9.5 has gone maybe a little too far. So I'm actually in on the Jets plus 9.5 for my biggest overreaction. And one of the biggest ones that we've seen of the week, again, it hasn't crossed a 3 or 7, so not like one of the big numbers. Yesterday, Atlanta was plus 2.5, and they were plus 111 on the money line. Today, they are minus 2.5, and they are minus 117 on the money line.
That's crazy.
So it can't just be because Aaron Jones is hurt. Maybe it's because Aaron Jones is hurt, because Christian Watson hasn't practiced, and because AJ Dillon looked horrible last game. I think he had 13 carries for 19 yards. So that could be the reason. I've been on Atlanta all week, and the reason I actually have Atlanta plus 2.5, and I have the Atlanta money line at plus money. And the reason I think that's the case is because the Packers are soft. Their defense has been soft for over 10 years. The Falcons have a very physical front, and they run the ball more than anybody else in the league, and it's at home. And let's be honest, Jordan Love looked great against a shitty Bears team. So we have no idea how good Jordan Love is, because the Bears are bad, and they beat up on a bad team, and that's great. Atlanta is probably okay by the end of the year, but they're at home. They're going to be physical. They're going to run the ball 55% of the time, and I think they're going to be able to win this game. So I like that one. And then my last one, I actually have 2 more, if that's okay with you.
Go for it.
The Bucks here at minus 2.5. I love the Bucks at minus 2.5. That is because they're playing the aforementioned Chicago Bears. If this gets to 3, I'm probably out. I don't want to deal with a field goal. Sure. Again, I think the Bears suck. I think the Bucks are at least professional. They're at home. They beat these Vikings that we're going to see tonight in Minnesota 4 days ago. And again, they only have to do it by a field goal. So this number is better elsewhere, but Sporttrade pays me. So if you were inclined, Caesars has this number at minus 2.5 at minus 110, which is actually where I bet it, because I can't use Sporttrade. Sporttrade has it at minus 2.5 at minus 113. And then finally, you know what? I don't care what you think about Desmond Ridder.
I was going to say,
but and my last one is Tennessee plus 3. Again, Chargers are soft. Chargers are coming to Nashville. The Titans are hard, and so am I. It's available plus 2.5 at Sporttrade. I'd like to get that up to 3. It is available at 3 elsewhere. So I actually bet this at DraftKings plus 3, Tennessee at home this weekend as well. So I don't like soft teams, as you can tell. I like hard, diamond hard teams that are physical up front and like to run the rock. Those are the ones that I like. I'm curious for your thoughts.
So you're hard. You'd like to get it up. I'm sensing a theme here.
I mean, nothing makes me more aroused than a plus 3 or a plus 3.5. Like, give me the hook. I want the hook. Don't make me beg for it, is what I'm saying.
Totally fair. Yeah. This Dennis LOL could be in regard to Ridder sucking, could be in regard to the last 5 minutes of what you were saying.
I don't know.
Of what you said, I totally agree on the Titans Chargers aspect of it. Why are the Chargers getting respect? I mean, like,
I have
why?
no idea.
They shouldn't.
If they fired Brandon Staley today,
then they'd
be like 10-point favorites, I think.
RESPECT.
Yeah.
Find out what it means. I think my biggest overreaction from week 1 into week 2, and call me stubborn, I'll eat that. I still cannot get on the Lions, and I can't get over the Seahawks. I mean, it's been nuked down a little bit. It was at like 6.5 at one point. Now the Lions are down to minus 4.5. Are we just buying the Lions? They're just totally in now. Like, we're just buying them as like they're going to take care of business. I know that they're at home. I think the biggest concern with this one with Seattle is their tackle situation. Both of them got hurt last week, and that was when things really started to kind of when they really lost it in the second half. They signed 41-year-old Jason Peters, which is never a great sign for an offensive line at this point in his career.
Apparently he looks fat as shit.
Even when he was in shape, I feel like he looked fat as shit. So I'm going down with the Seahawks again. I'm just not ready to buy the Lions. Like, you can't convince me that they're just going to take care of business now, because an impressive victory. I'm not going to take anything away from them. Also, it wasn't that impressive of a victory if Kadarius Toney just has normal drops instead of catastrophic drops that turn into 7 points for the other team. The Chiefs probably win. So that's my favorite one is Seattle over the Lions.
Yeah, two teams that, I'm not sure if I have a great read on them. Specifically the Seattle. I just don't know, honestly. I was high on them. I said on your show last week I believed in Geno Smith, and now I don't really know what to believe. So I'm kind of staying away from Seattle for right now.
That's fair. They were part of my 4 upset picks that I posted earlier this week.
And hey, look, like if you don't know, you don't have to bet, right? Like
that is true.
I just don't know about that team. And I don't think we're going if the Rams weren't playing the Niners, I wouldn't touch the Rams. I have no idea about the Rams. Absolutely none.
Yeah, that's another one.
They're playing the 49ers, right? And they're a 7-point dog. But are they good? Or did they win that game because they had 9 months to scheme for it? Like I don't know. It's too small of a sample size.
Yeah, that's why I like the week 1, the week 2. It's always interesting to see like what the biggest difference is. Like I mean, I've rattled off a ton of examples of week 1 outcomes that were not that did not necessarily repeat over the course of the year. My favorite example is the year that Jacksonville Jaguars went 1-15. Their one victory was in week 1.
Right.
Stuff like that. Yep, exactly. Yep. Gardner Minshew. So cool. All right. I know you got to get out of here. You got a concert to go to. Do you have any parting thoughts either for the game tonight or for week 2 or for totally unrelated to sports?
Go Birds.
Go Birds. Wow. Should drop the mic.
Go Birds.
Cool.
Baby.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Dan, as always, thanks for joining me. Let's go Birds and let's cash this parlay. Have a good one.
See ya.